Well, hi, everyone. This is Michael, and welcome to the LoveWorks Dreamers and Doers podcast. We are bringing you today episode number 100. And it's at LoveWorks that we believe that you are never too young to be a dreamer, and you are definitely never too old to get started working on that dream. Hey, if you are tuning in for the first time, we just want to thank you so much. You are giving the thing in life that is the most precious, whether you realize it or not, and it is your time. And if you're returning, we just want to welcome back because we definitely know that there are plenty of great options out there in the podcast universe.
That is right. And our hope with the Dreamers and Doers podcast is that each week our special guest is going to connect with you wherever you find yourself today, and they're going to inspire you to become the best version of yourself for tomorrow.
And each week, we not only hope that our Dreamer and Doer guest connects with you, but we also hope that our short segment on personal growth does as well too. Personal growth is a big deal here at LoveWorks, and we believe that you can even have a blast doing it, learning and growing as a leader. Each week, Carol and I love to curate different things for you, ranging from music to different influencers or organizations to follow, blogs to read, other podcasts to listen to that are going to encourage you. But Carolyn, today we reach the century mark, a big milestone that we've been waiting for. And so we're going to highlight a few. We could highlight them all for sure, but there's a few guests that we're going to highlight that have continued not only dreaming, but have continued dreaming. And so Dreamers and Doers, I'm going to kick this off, and I'm going to encourage you to go back perhaps and listen to podcast episode number 7 with Bola Ibadapo, and it was themed Finding Your Focus. Bola is part of the Two Fly Foundation, and check this out. She was just featured on the Kelly Clarkson show just a handful of weeks ago when her organization received a surprise donation of 100 must be the theme, $100,000 from HEB and from Tyler Perry. So congratulations, Bola. We love you more than you know.
I'm going to shout out another wonderful entrepreneur. Her name's Leslie Stevens, and she's featured on episode number 27. It's called You Get What You Put In. And she actually, so when we were meeting with Leslie at the time of this interview, episode 27, she was running a different business. And so really cool now, this last year, Leslie started the Cultivated Vision Design Studio after 4 years of all of the learning that she did with the branding and the marketing that she put into her own health and wellness businesses. So congratulations, Leslie, on starting a whole new business.
Absolutely. A special friend of LoveWorks. Hey, Sajid. We had the opportunity to meet Sajid as a fellow delegate with the University of Oklahoma back in 2019. And we featured him on episode number 12, Riding the Wave of Life with Sajid. He is the founder of the Learner's Tree, TLT, and he just received the Award of Excellence for being the highest volume contributor from the IELTS British Council in Pakistan. And IELTS is an English qualifying exam. So Sajid, so proud of you. Keep up the great work.
Congratulations. Next shout out goes to Mike Huang, who was our guest for episode number 8, Bucket Listing 101. And as usual, Mike is up to a few things. And so he received the Indomitable Grit Award for the year of 2020 from the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Association of Realtors. And he became the new president of the Asian District Cultural Association. And super cool, he's a little over halfway to receiving a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu.
Way to go. If you're looking for a bodyguard, Mike is the person to contact. Beth Brown, episode number 63, was all about creating your own adventure. And check this out. She just released her second children's book, and it's all about the Adventures with Divot and Swish series. And this one being focused on the superpower of confidence.
I love that. Another shout out to another great resource maker would be Tiffany Lang, and she's episode number 74, Becoming Extraordinary with Tiffany Lang. And she's an author and creator of Bevy and Dave. And so they actually just released a new series of the Bevy and Dave adventures, and it's called Through History, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, volume 1. And she also released, super cool, this is an interactive piece, but it's a journal that's designed for students. And so it's called My Best Self. And so super cool. Love the resources coming.
No doubt. Tiffany, it is hard to keep up with you. Speaking of attempting to keep up with someone, Akash Patel, make sure you drink your caffeine whenever you meet with Akash because he's going to bring it every time with his energy and enthusiasm. Episode number 42 featured global dreams, and he recently just began his term as the first polyglot immigrant president-elect of ACTFL, the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. Carolyn, I love that you are giving me these abbreviated words to pronounce. Inside joke there.
You know it. Our last shout out today, this one's going to Jennifer Keelan Chaffins. She's episode number 48, and it's called Dreaming for All. And she was actually just recently selected this last year as one of 6 people chosen to be the Courageous Class of 2022 by the Museum of the Courageous. And so the individuals who are selected for this they're the face of civil rights in America, and it actually shattered the silence that surrounds hate, pushed for equality, and led multi-year campaigns against racial terror. So really, really amazing.
Wow. Well, thank those 8 and our other 92 guests. You have been such an inspiration to Carolyn and I. It has been a joy to have over 100 hours of conversation. And Carolyn, I hope that you're looking forward to having 100 more.
Yes, let's do 100 more. We got to line these up. If anyone has any suggestions on guests, some dreamers and doers, let us know.
Well, speaking of guests, we have a great one today. So dreamers and doers, we hope that today's conversation is going to meet you wherever you find yourself in your leadership journey. And so here's the format. Each week, we have the fortunate opportunity to sit down with someone that we've identified that is a dreamer and a doer. And we're going to hear at least one of their dream stories, but we also want to be able to hear what were some of those first early steps that our dreamer and doer took in his or her leadership journey. And we hope it's going to encourage you to get from the place that you are today to the place that you desire to get to tomorrow. So here it is, our 100th guest. Let's meet our dreamer and doer, Dave Willis.
Dave began his tenure at Tinker Federal Credit Union as Executive Vice President, Chief Operations Officer in 2008. Before accepting the position at TFCU and moving to Oklahoma, Dave was at the Kitsap Credit Union in Bremerton, Washington for over 20 years. During his tenure at Kitsap, he also held several positions with increasing responsibility, including Senior Vice President, Chief Operations Officer. Dave earned his bachelor's degree in business management at the University of Washington and his master's degree in business administration at the University of Central Oklahoma. He served more than 10 years in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserves, and he served as the landing support specialist with the 4th Landing Support Battalion. Dave participates in dozens of community events every year, including Chamber of Commerce activities, teacher community partner appreciation events, United Way, and events at Tinker Air Force Base. He serves as the chair of the Cornerstone Credit Union Foundation Board and is on the National Association of Federally Insured Credit Unions PAC Committee and Credit Union National Association Consumer Financial Protection Subcommittee. He also volunteers his personal time at various nonprofit organizations. In 2013, Willis was awarded the Credit Union Association of Oklahoma Professional of the Year. Hi, Dave.
Good morning.
Dave, good morning. It's great to see you. Wow, my head's just spinning on just reading just about and just hearing just about the career that you've had.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
No, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you, and we're excited for this milestone episode with you. So thank you for joining us. We're dreamers and doers, as you know. So Carolyn, I think it'd be very appropriate for you to ask the question for the 100th time.
I would totally agree. So Dave, welcome to the Dreamers and Doers podcast. We know you're a dreamer. We know you're a doer as well, but which one comes more naturally to you?
So that's an interesting question because I was thinking about the dreamer and doer aspect, and I don't think you can be a doer without dreams because that's going to give you that direction. On the other hand, a lot of people end up dreaming their whole life away and then just don't do. So I got to think that the most important part of mine is being a doer.
Okay. Well, Dave, we would love for you to take us back just a few years and perhaps even tell us about maybe what were some of those early dreams or things that you did when you were younger. So do any particular stories happen to stick out either when you were in middle school or in high school?
Well, I will tell you that I was a huge dreamer when I was in middle school and high school, and my dreams were of being on a baseball or a football field later on in life. And so those are big dreams. I worked real hard for those, but sometimes your dreams shift, right? As you get older, you reprioritize, different things happen. But I think what that did was it taught me discipline for what was going to come next. And so once I got out of high school, I then went on into the Marine Corps, and the physical training of baseball and football and everything with that then set the stage for my next dream to continue that, which was to give back to my country, do something for protecting my family. And that kind of became my mantra going forward. I work at credit unions. Credit unions are about people helping people. Through all of that, serving in my church, about taking care of my friends and family in church. So it kind of set the path for service to others.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Dave, first of all, we're gonna talk more just about your service in the U.S. Marine Corps. Want to thank you for your service to our country.
Sure.
And out of personal curiosity, if you don't mind, I would love to park for just a moment on the baseball and football dream that you had. One of my earliest memories that I had as a kid was wearing a baseball glove on my left hand. And I realized, I guess sometime late high school, that an 87-mile-an-hour fastball was not going to quite get me into the big leagues. And I did pursue baseball, though, for a few more years after that. So what was it like for you just to have that dream to either play baseball or football, and then to have it just suddenly shift and to move on to something else? How did you personally work it out?
So those were, I want to say those were big dreams that set the stage for the next thing. I realized that after 2 shoulder surgeries and a knee surgery that professional sports was not going to work if I wanted to keep my body physically together for the next 50 or 70 years. So that was the reality. Was physically I was sustaining a lot of injuries. But that said, I didn't discontinue the physical engagement because my next career was very physical. It just, what it did was put into me a sense of hard work, because hard work's what gets you there. I was not the strongest. I might have been close to the fastest, but what I was able to do on the football field was just flat out from working really hard and putting everything I had into that. And that was kind of my motive on everything I did. If I was going to go to school, I was going to give it 100%. If I was going to play football, 100%. And just for anybody who thinks that you can't do all of those, you can do multiple things all at one time and still give 100%. So I would never recommend giving up working hard in school to live the dream of football. And on the other side, balancing out life is going to make life much more fun and engaging for you if you don't just go down a single path.
Yeah.
I love that. We're getting little like gold nuggets, life lessons right now. So Dave, I know you had just mentioned just a common theme in your life now is through service. And so I was wondering, were there some life events that happened in your youth, or perhaps people that really influenced and inspired the way that you live today?
I feel like my sense of service came from not seeing it when I was young. So it actually was the opposite. I didn't see people out serving and doing, but I saw a lot of need. So that's what inspired me to go in the military. That's what inspired me to serve in my church. That's what inspired me to just work harder. And through my career now, I find that I could influence and contribute back to more people the harder I worked and the higher I got in the organization. So yeah, it just became kind of an underlying need for me, having not seen a lot of it when I was young.
Wow. Well, Dave, you took us here as far as just your service with the U.S. Marine Corps, and we know that it's a big decision to decide to serve, for the military. So can you tell our listeners, why this is important to you and maybe a lesson that you learned from serving our country?
So I had family that had served in the military, in the Army and Air Force. I felt like quite honestly, I grew up feeling like I was obligated that I should serve my country at some point in time. It was never a question from the time I was really small. I just knew at some point in time I wanted to serve in the military. It was, I don't know, just embedded in me that at some point I would do that. Once I got into the military, I found more discipline that probably wasn't bad for me based on how I was when I was a youth sometimes. And it also gave me structure and just the whole concept of team, right? I know that there used to be a motto out there, Army of One, but no one individual in the military achieves anything without the rest of the team, from the commanding general all the way through the troops. Everybody has an important part to play. We need to appreciate every individual's investment to what their role is. And that teamwork actually helped position my mentality for going forward into work, where nobody is just the one achiever that gets everything done. It always happens better as a team. So I think that's probably the most important role I learned in the military.
Yeah.
I love getting to hear that. Man, Dave, it is just your heart for people is so clear and so evident. So we have one of our tenets at LoveWorks that we focus on is not just leadership and character, but it's also an entrepreneurship. And so I want to ask this question on behalf of our young entrepreneurs out there. What advice would you have for them if they're ready for the next opportunity to grow their business or move forward with their career path? How would you encourage them?
So I would just say that one, no dream is too big. As soon as you start thinking dreams are too big, then you don't follow through and you don't take action, right? The do part. So you need to have those dreams, but you also need to prepare yourself. What is my next step in life going to be? And have I prepared myself to be the very best I can at doing that? So did I get the education in the right areas that will help me be even better at that? And and then just, you got to go for it. Because if you don't, someday, when you get old like me, you'll be thinking, what if I would have done that? I wish I would have done that. Or only if I would have done something else. Our paths in lives are clearly defined by what we do. And what we do, I think, is clearly defined by how much we're willing to go out there and go after our dreams. So it's a hand-in-hand kind of scenario, is go ahead and do the dreaming, but you got to prepare yourself, right? And be plan to have to do a lot of hard work. It's never going to be just an easy walk in the park, unless your dream is to walk dogs in the park. But otherwise, you're going to have to put in the work and time. And again, I would say make sure you're balancing your life. There is no one thing that's so important that's worth ignoring other things. Don't forget to take care of your family. Don't forget to take care of your personal health and everything else, because all of those combined will give you a more balanced life, and the dream's going to be easier when you do that, including education, all of that stuff. It's not just a single path. It's the whole balanced experience.
Yeah, I love that. Dave, what would you say to the student who maybe doesn't feel like they're quite prepared for that next step, and maybe they feel a little behind?
So talk to your counselors, talk to your friends, talk to your family, and find out where you can get that next step, how you can prepare yourself. And in today's world, right? Not like when Google didn't exist when I was young. Matter of fact, smartphones didn't exist. I didn't have that, but Google people that are doing that stuff and find out about them, because usually there's going to be some sort of a bio on them. Mm-hmm. Once you find that, then you can figure out what kind of things you need to do to prepare yourself. But definitely the school counselors and other individuals, or seek out somebody in the industry, call them up and visit with them. So almost everybody's going to be more than happy to share how they had success, and also tell you where you might have some pitfalls if you're not careful.
That's such great advice. Be resourceful, especially use the people that are basically built into your system as well. Speaking of resources, so something unique that TFCU offers is free educational financial workshops, and since 2008 has been available to all Oklahomans. And I'm sure that these classes are not free for you all to put on. So I wanted to ask, why is it so important to make these classes accessible?
Well, I tell you, we find out that the money IQ of most people is if I still have checks, no, of course, nobody on this call is going to understand this, but if I still have checks on my checkbook, I think I can write checks and right. So if the machine still takes my debit card, I can continue to spend. And most people that have low financial IQ, they tend to make more financial mistakes. They use overdraft protection, which then allows them to borrow instead of just making sure you have the money first before you go out and spend. And we find hundreds and hundreds of folks that just struggle with, how do I gain credit? How do I protect my checking accounts or my savings accounts from others, like on the web and on the internet? And it's nonstop. We could continue this. We could double or triple the amount of training we do for folks on financial education, and we would still have full classrooms.
Mm-hmm. Wow. We said this, we were talking just briefly before we went live, Dave, and just want to thank you. LoveWorks, our organization, is fortunately being given the opportunity to be able to partner with you this summer and on some other various initiatives as well, too. So it's a really big deal that you are offering these kinds of opportunities to Oklahomans. Dave, we'd like to change gears for just a moment. And, outside of your role with the credit union, you're also very involved with your community, local community. Mm-hmm. Could you talk with us about why this is important to you personally and professionally?
Well, I think what happens is as we progress through life, and I'm going to tell you, most of the kids on the podcast are thinking about how to get themselves into a position of success, how to start a business or become the next CEO. At some point in your time, it will transition to, what have I done lately to give back to somebody else, right? Again, I always go back to the philosophy that we none of us get here on our own. It's going to take a whole team. It's going to take, there's a million different catchphrases out there about taking advantage of that. But I think that at some point in time for me, my career got to a point where I felt like I was doing okay. I wasn't the CEO. Matter of fact, I may have been just a branch manager at a credit union somewhere. But I felt like there was a piece missing, which is the community side. What am I doing to give back to my community? Because again, it goes back to, as a child, seeing so much poverty, so much abuse, mistreatment, whatever that is. And I just had developed this need to serve others. And I've found out through all of whether it was the Rotary Club or the Chamber of Commerce or any of the things that we do, or the church, is that there's so much need out there. And the high you get out of taking care of and helping someone else is far more than getting something from someone else, right? It's as y'all get older, you're going to discover that the giving spirit is much stronger than the receiving spirit. And you, again, balance in your life, work hard, give back, and all of that. And the success comes by itself.
Wow. Dave, you were, I think, hinting towards this a little bit before, but we believe that, the difference between having a dream and doing your dream is the amount of effort that you actually put into it. Mm-hmm. And so could you share about how does effort play into the dreams that you have seen realized?
Well, you're going to fall down a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So that is so important, that without failures, you don't have successes. And you to be a doer, you have to be willing to fail from time to time. And then as you do that, you start finding ways to be more successful. I got to tell you, one of the best things to do is learn not only from your own mistakes, but also learn from others' mistakes. It's easy to see them sometimes and think, wow, if that person would have just done X, or if I would have just done something else. That develops a system within yourself that you are more likely to succeed every time you try versus fail. But at first, you got to be willing to take a few lumps and fall down a few times. And once you've done that, then you realize it's not so bad, and you can go at it even harder next time.
I like that. Dave, you still have me back at a question ago with the whole giving spirit and receiving spirit. So good. Dave, if we had the opportunity to see you outside of the office, maybe you're not serving out in the community, but perhaps you're at home. Do you have any particular habits, disciplines, anything that you particularly lean into to help you to grow and stay strong as a leader?
Sure. Yeah. Of course, my kids are both grown up and gone off to college and are in careers of their own now. But my wife and I, we've got 4 dogs at home. And they are harder than children because they're so needy and it never goes away. But one of the things we do as well is old cars. We have a 66 Mustang and we've got a 55 Chevy pickup. And so I find for me when I'm out in the garage, just doing things with my hands mechanically, it takes my mind away from other stuff. And when I come to work on Monday, my mind is so much more clear because I've had a chance to just do something that I like to do, just to get out there and get my hands dirty and work on that. We've got property that we work on all the time. I sometimes feel like I come to work on Monday to rest because outside the office, we're extremely busy. Of course, we do events within the community and stuff, but all of that stuff gives back. Again, it all goes back to giving back blessings of, we're better people for what we've done, and hopefully we've made a difference on it. But yeah, old cars and our dogs. My wife and I, we spend a lot of time on that. So
I love that. Also a huge dog fan.
I'll send pictures later.
Oh, that would be awesome. I love that. Dave, so I had another question for you, and this one I think will be easy for you to answer. What is it that you love about what you get to do?
Well, it's about the mission, right? People helping people financially. When I was very young in this business, I would have people come in just so I could balance their checkbook for them. And I quickly discovered that there is this huge need of financial education. There's a huge need for financial support, and helping people be better financially. I feel like over my career, I've saved marriages. So for this group, you guys may not see this right now, but at some point in your time, if you don't manage your finances well, it will take a toll on your marriage when you get married. It'll make life harder at work. And the more that you can be financially responsible and be happy with what you have instead of always looking for what you don't have, your life is going to be so much more pleasant, so much more easy to do, because financial stress, one, can make you real sick as you get older, and 2, it can break up families and marriages and everything else. So it's just an important part. I felt like my way of serving my community from a very young age in this business was to help save. I'm not saving lives on the battlefield or anything, but I'm saving lives in people's savings accounts and how they make decisions about borrowing and stuff. So it's much more rewarding seeing the success for somebody else than it is to receive stuff for me.
Oh, yeah. That's so refreshing. Dave, thank you for sharing just your heart just about, and always bringing it right back to the mission, because I don't think that would necessarily be what our students, our young dreamers and doers would be thinking, that part of what, Tinker Federal Credit Union is a part of doing helps to save marriages. And so, wow, it's so refreshing to hear you say that. Well, Dave, you mentioned on the onset with our first question that you felt like you were a more natural doer. But if you wouldn't mind perhaps putting on that dream hat, and do you have any particular just ideas, new projects or dreams that you're thinking about for the future that you could share with us?
Yeah, so as a business, one of the things that I have to dream, well, what I do on an annual basis is do strategic planning. And what we do when we do that is kind of a brainstorming dream session. And of course, we dream about making financial access for more people in more places, and doing those kind of things. But I dream more about what I can do. This is going to sound corny. You guys will get this at some point in time in your life, the younger folks. But at some point in time, you start dreaming about how I can do even more. And I've only been the CEO here for a relatively short time, and I look at how my employees are compensated, how we provide benefits. I look at the diversity of our organization, and I've got dozens of huge dreams for our business that I feel like I can now influence, because I'm the buck, right? It all stops here with me, and if I don't get it done, then shame on me. But right now my focus is pouring into our employees, and because the better I take care of my employees, the better they're going to take care of our members. and help somebody else, save another life from a bad financial decision.
Good.
Yeah. If you could talk to your middle school self, what's a piece of advice that you would want to share?
To not get distracted. There's always a whole bunch of easy distractions out there. And as a middle schooler and then into high school, I was easily distracted. But that's where I got my first itch for fast cars. I had a Camaro and, those kind of things. But those were all material things at the time. And at some point in time, those became less important. But I think they were a distraction for me in some areas where I could have been more focused. So if you really want to chase that dream, you want to be successful, you got to stay focused and avoid the squirrels passing by when they run past the window, because they're easy to watch and chase. But it's all about the friends you choose to hang out with and the things that are going to help you in the future and the things that are going to slow you down. And usually those distractions are the ones that slow you down.
That's great advice, Dave. Bonus question before our last question. And just why we had this opportunity, Dave, to have you just on this podcast, just like to ask you a question about team members. If there'd be an attribute or two that you're looking for in team members, and we've had the opportunity to interact with a few already from Tinker, and I'm just so impressed with the attitude, the enthusiasm, again, the heart to give back, which is definitely a reflection of your culture. So when you're looking to onboard, new team members, again, what is an attribute or two that you guys are really looking for?
Humble overachievers. So I think because there's some people, and when you start into your business world, there's a lot of people that are looking to advance themselves. They want to be recognized. They want to, that will come. But if you can stay humble and work really hard and be an overachiever, somebody else is going to say, hey, you know what? I noticed that, Michael out there, he's just always rocking everything he does. And so we always look for humble rock stars that are overachievers because they're probably the ones that are going to excel through the organization into leadership the fastest.
Okay. I've not heard that said before, and I really like it. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Dave, on to the last question. We call this our Dreamer and Doer Minute. So you're going to join a host of other great companies that have answered this question, where we give our guest, our Dreamer and Doer, that's you, 60 seconds to be able to share whatever else just might be on your heart and your mind to encourage the young dreamer and doer out there that is either listening or watching. So Dave, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, set and go.
I would say that you need to not worry about your surroundings and your environment today. When I was young, I came from very humble beginnings. It was a difficult struggle for my family when I was young, and that did not set the stage for me. You do not have to become your environment. You do not have to become, if you have struggles at home with your parents, that doesn't have to dictate you. You need to be your self-dreamer. You need to be your own person, and you need to go after what you want very aggressively and work hard for it. That's always going to be the magic, is not feeling like you're already predefined. You'll never be predefined unless you allow yourself to be. You'll never achieve your dreams if you don't become a doer. So focus on yourself and make sure you're doing what you need to achieve those dreams, but don't feel like you're stuck anywhere, no matter where you're at, whether it's classes you don't excel in, whether I got D's and C's sometimes, right? It's what happens, but focus on the things you do well and excel.
Boom. Dave, that was 1 minute and 1 second. I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, I went over by a second. I'm sorry. It was that breath I took and paused.
No redos. We'll keep it.
Okay.
I love that, Dave. Thank you so much for just encouraging the heart of our student and to let them know that their life is not predetermined by their environment, by their parents, by the things that surround them. But if they work hard, they really apply themselves. Great things are really possible. And I love what you said earlier when you referenced that no dream is too big. And I love that sentiment, is that these things are accomplishable, and it's possible to give up if you think it's not. And so to believe in yourself, I think is huge. So thank you for sharing that and sharing from your experience in your story. It means so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Dave, this has really been truly an honor and so special for us that you would carve out and take this time to be able to encourage our dreamers and doers today. We always like to include in our show notes different ways that we can find either our guest or perhaps the business or entity that they work for. We did find an article about you serving in the U.S. Marine Corps, and it was quoted in you saying, being a part of doing something bigger than yourself. So we'll include that. Is there any place that you would encourage our dreamers and doers that they could either find you or learn more about TFCU?
Yes, so they can find out more about me and TFCU at tinkerfcu.org. There's a whole bunch of information in there about the organization and our history and what we do to serve. And you can find educational, financial education opportunities there as well.
Awesome. Well, again, Dave, thank you for serving our country. Thank you for serving our community and for helping to make us better today. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being here.
Thanks, Dave. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Michael, that was awesome.
100 in the books. And Carolyn, I don't think it could have been any better. Wisdom just scattered along the road for our dreamers and doers, and honestly, anyone of any age to be able to pick up and be able to apply into their lives.
No, I would agree with you. I felt like there is so much wisdom in this interview. And from experience, I loved really getting to hear his take on it. And it was so pointed. So I really appreciated getting to hear it. In fact, if you enjoyed this episode, I have a recommendation for you. It's episode number 53. It's called The Power of Play with Kevin Carroll. And I think kind of a similar sentiment of this idea of that it's not your environment that determines your future, but there are things that you can do to shape your future. So.
Carolyn, I don't know if you'll get the boxing analogy with the 1-2 punch, but I don't know if I could think of a better 1-2 combination than Dave Willis and Kevin Carroll.
No, it's like, I know jab, left hook. I don't know.
Left hook jab. I think that's Gary Vaynerchuk. Dreamers and doers, if you'd like to learn more just about LoveWorks and you're curious about what it is that we do, you can check us out at loveworksleadership.org. And then we also have a unique feature too on our homepage. It's get to ask Carolyn and Michael or our dreamer and doer guest a question. So if there's a particular challenge that perhaps you're having or just anything that's on your mind that it pertains to life and leadership, we would love to do our very best to be able to answer that question for you in a life-giving way. And we always like to remind you that real leaders, they don't blend in, but they stand out. And if you're curious about one way that you can be a Fruit Loop today in a world of Cheerios, this advice is going to come from one of my favorite little books that's called Make Your Bed by Admiral William McRaven. And that's his whole premise behind this book is if you want to live a successful life, it's about doing the little things in life, like making your bed when you first wake up in the morning and experiencing your first win. So thank you, Admiral, for that wisdom and advice. Encourage you all to dream big
and do your dream.
See you in the next 100 episodes. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.